Hey, everybody, welcome to Poduty in the News. I've got Wize joining me. We've got 6 great stories headed your way.
What time is it? What time is it? Oh, it's time for Poduty and the News. Poduty and the News. The only live news podcast about podcasting from the stage. Poduty and the News. Poduty and the News. The only live news podcast about podcasting from the stage.
If that beat doesn't get you out of your seat, check your pulse. You might not be alive. It's Poduty in the News for Tuesday, December 16th, 2025, with Wize Otero joining me all the way from the Poconos. Wize, welcome to the show.
Oh man, it's a great honor to be here, man. Always a pleasure to collaborate with you.
Oh man, we were talking before the show. Probably since 2020, 3 to 4 main things a year that we collaborate on, different events, indie pods, the women of indie pods. You've been out here to the theater. We did 2 days of live streaming.
Yes, we did.
And we got you one of those permane sandwiches.
Yes. That was when I could eat a lot, and yeah.
Well, that was a lot of fun. I hope to get you back out here soon. We had a little bit of a, I think, schedule conflict this year, but hopefully coming up in the spring. And I know since we last spoke, I don't know, it's every 3 to 4 weeks you have a big announcement coming up. Like you're always something in the works. There's something new you're working on. I'm really excited for one big thing that you're starting to put together next year. I don't know if you have all the details yet, but there's going to be a way for a lot of people possibly to get together. But tell us a little bit about what you've been working on, especially since the last time you were out here.
Oh man, it's a lot of things, man. We launched Real Wize Publishing. We've learned I've learned how to self-publish books, me and Poppy J, and so we've launched Real Wize Publishing. Like I said, we've gone a whole new rebranding. We went from Real Wize Productions to Real Wize Global Media, focusing more on a lot of the stuff that we're trying to build, man. It's just been an amazing 12 months. This year has been really it's been one of those moments, right, where you know that you're right there at that level where it's just ready to just take off or explode. So it feels like 2025 is just right there. So for 2026, we just plan to just take it to another level and just keep grinding.
Yeah, let's make it happen. I mean, we've been laying the groundwork for a few years, and you've ramped it up over the last year with the book, with the publishing, with the podcast, the rebrand. I don't know if you're talking about the other. Are you still working on the?
Yes, I'm still working on the retreat. Yes, that's something that's because I've gotten so much great feedback from it, right? Especially the concept and everything that we're trying to build around it. Because it's something where I want podcasters to come together, and because I actually next month I will be in Orlando for Podfest, right? But it'll be completely different because Podfest is so big, right? And it's so many people, and you get to network with. Where I just want this to be a little bit more intimate setting, probably 20 to 25, maybe 30 podcasters getting together and having workshops and collaborating and the content that they create there, that's for them to use and build from there.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to get there no matter what, rain, sleet, or shine, or snow.
Sometimes you have to be there because you're kind of sort of like the tech guy too as well. Even though I kind of been doing it, but you definitely got to be there, brother, man.
I'll be 2-3 days early. You'll be wanting to get rid of me after the event, but I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a phenomenal event. I've heard some of the details you've been working on, and I'm sure as more details come about, you'll release more information. But just keep an eye out. Make sure follow Wize and the links that I put into the show notes. Stay in contact. Connect with them on Facebook, on LinkedIn. Make those connections with the guests that I'm having because they're working on things. These are movers and shakers. This is like independent media on steroids, and all these little things that we've been working on are bubbling up now. They're starting to grow roots and get legs and start to run. So pay attention. Make sure you connect with Wize. Go into the show notes and click Wize's links. Are you ready for some of our stories tonight?
Yes, I am.
As you know, on this show, we get 6 stories about different cities, small towns, conferences. People are doing live shows in droves. It's something that we didn't see as much 6 to 12 months ago, but I now have a backlog of 40 plus stories of people doing live podcasts. This is why we're doing the show 2 times a week. There's so much news coming in. There's so much change happening in live podcasting and live events, people podcasting at conferences, people filling theaters, arenas, coffee shops. It is happening, and it's happening in bigger and bigger numbers. This is something to pay attention to. This is probably episode 30, 35 of this show, Poduty in the News. And every week we've done 6 stories. There's 180 examples I'm giving you of people around the world doing live podcasting, and I've got 6 more for you tonight. We're going to go to that first story, and this is one we're going to file under, is that a podcast? We're not sure. We know how YouTube has been morphing the definition of what a podcast is, what a podcast could be, and it looks like TikTok's going to take that and put it through the ringer a little further. So is this a podcast or just a TikTok with better lighting? We're going to put this strategy under Platform First Live Series, and TikTok announced TikTok in the Mix, a new live podcast, in quotes, series that feels like a big swing at turning celebrity interviews into appointment viewing, except it's happening inside TikTok. Season 1 is a 4-episode run of 30-minute live conversations streamed on TikTok, and it kicked off December 11th with Demi Lovato as the first guest. The real strategy here is TikTok packaging what looks like an interview show into a podcast wrapper. It keeps fans on the platform longer, gives advertising a premium sponsorship lane, and turns music culture into a repeatable live series that can be clipped, reshared, and remonetized after the broadcast ends. And this is the second Demi Lovato story we've had on this show in the 30 episodes. And the first time was in a legit, actual podcast. Demi Lovato has a book club, and she has a book podcast where she talks about the books that she's reading, and she shares that with her fans, and it's just a great way to connect. And she held a live event I think it was at the New York Public Library, and invited her fans and people to come in and just talk about books and meet the authors and have these great conversations. And it was recorded and released as a podcast. Here we have TikTok kind of doing the YouTube playbook here, redefining what a podcast is or what a podcast can be, and then just only putting it on TikTok without any other kind of distribution. What were you thinking when you read through this article, Wize? Do you think this is a podcast, or are we kind of pushing the boundaries of what a podcast can be?
Because all right, so when I first started in 2020, I was strictly audio, right? I had to go get a platform. I got on Podbean, got an RSS feed, and that's how I launched my podcast. I was strictly audio. And then as I started interviewing people and getting together with, I got together with a branding strategist. There were a couple. And one of the things they asked me was, did I have video content? And at that point, I was using Funny StreamYard at that time to record the audio. I wasn't really using the video aspect of it. And so when I got with this couple, the husband made sure that he kept making sure, he kept asking, like, do you do video? and I came up with a couple of excuses the first two, and then when the third time you finally asked me, I pressed record. It made sense. I was already using the platform. Long form video content right now is at a premium, especially with on YouTube and everything, and then YouTube being one of the largest search engines, and it being one of the most viewed app out there, right? Like it's outdone cable and all these and network television. Everyone is on YouTube. So is video? So let me ask you a question: is it video thing a pod? Yes, because if you can take the audio from it and use it, repurpose it, and put it on platforms that distribute as a podcast, then I would consider it a podcast. But if you're going to just stay on TikTok, then you're just a TikTok show. You're not a podcast, because they have to go to TikTok to find your show. Whereas if you're truly a podcast, you have RSS feed that takes you to multiple platforms. You're not just on Apple. You're just not on Spotify. You're on some other lower class podcasting platforms. And so, yeah, I don't think what TikTok is doing I would consider a podcast. But listen, we redefine things all the time. So
I heard the same conversation on Pod News the other day, and they were talking about. He asked a question: is it on iTunes? No. Is it on Spotify? No. Well, if those are podcast distribution platforms, then it can't. If not there, it's not a podcast, right? So, how do we go about defining what a podcast is? How do we, we want to push that boundary. We want to have independent media. We want to have people creating things, and I've veered a little bit. I do agree that a podcast needs to have some sort of distribution, some sort of RSS. That really is what makes it a podcast. Otherwise, it's a video show. And this is, I think, this falls under the category of it's a nice show. It's a great way to connect with Demi Lovato fans, but it is just a live stream on TikTok.
Yeah, and not everyone's on TikTok, right? Not there. Some people feel that TikTok is kind of like childish, and they don't do it. So for you to just focus on TikTok, especially if you're trying to grow a brand, and something that was said to me, okay, that you want to master all these different platforms, we should master one. I guess by just doing a TikTok show, that's your way of mastering TikTok. But eventually, if you really want to become a truly a podcast, you definitely just cannot just be on streaming on just one platform.
You got to be in the places where your audience is, and you have to figure that out. And the way to figure it out is through testing different formats. Like right now, we're trying LinkedIn and Facebook tonight. That's part of this. And what I do with this show is, yes, I am live streaming the show. This is very similar to what TikTok and Demi Lovato are doing. And I have a theater space. We're recording it live in the theater, and Wize is joining us on the live stream. Not much different than what TikTok's doing. But what I do from this is I'll edit all the video feeds that took to make this live stream happen. I will release it as a video, an edited video, and I will release the audio as a podcast that will get distributed to iTunes and Spotify. So you can do all the things that TikTok's doing, but I think we really get into trouble when we start only hosting things behind these walled gardens where you have to be on TikTok or you don't get to see the Demi Lovato interview.
Yeah.
Let's go over to story number 2. Keep the show moving. We're going from conference stage to canon when live interview becomes the episode. Our second story is a perfect example of live events feeding long-form podcast content. This episode features Chase Lockmiller, CEO and co-founder of Crusoe, recorded live at the inaugural MCJ Summit in San Francisco at the Autodesk Gallery. Instead of a studio sit-down, Cody turns a conference conversation into a flagship episode, diving into Crusoe's work at the intersection of AI and energy and Chase's journey from MIT soccer captain and mountaineer to climate-focused entrepreneur. The big takeaway here isn't just the content, it's the strategy. Use a live, high-trust room, build a built-in audience, event sponsors, then capture once and distribute everywhere, turning a single live moment into a long tail podcast value. And this is kind of what you were talking about on the last story, Wize. Here you have a live event, and you're finding people who like the same things that you like. This is a conference of, looks like, AI and energy, and this company is hosting the event and they're recording a podcast. So they're bringing people together, potential clients, maybe people that they're serving in their industry leaders, and they're hosting these events during the conference, and then they're recording that content to release as their own podcast episode. So they're getting the double dip. They're bringing in, and creating this live experience for people in their industry. And then they're recording all that content all week long while people are at the summit that they can use over and over again all year long.
Well, think about like this show right now, right? You're recording, you're streaming live, but at the same time, you're also recording this and saving it so you can repurpose this content. Like if you wanted to take the audio from this and upload it to Apple or whatever, or Spotify, or whatever, you can do that. So you can have the best of both worlds. So it's important that you do both.
Yeah, one of the things I used to ask myself was, what is a podcast, right? It's an MP3 file distributed by an RSS feed to the aggregator app so that people could download and listen to it on demand anytime they wanted to. And then I asked the question, where is a podcast? When is a podcast? Because a lot of times the when factor was people we'll schedule Tuesday at 7 p.m. You want to come to my studio, or we'll get on a live stream. And then the where factor was, well, I feel safe in my office. I can get on a live stream. I can turn everything on. It sounds good. I just feel safe about that. And we started to push these boundaries of what, where, and when a podcast could be. And you're starting to see all this stuff pop up in these different events. And our next story is very interesting because this is the picture I'm showing people watching on the screen right now. This is live on a showroom floor at a conference, right? They're just like, hey, we're gonna set up a stage. People are gonna be walking by, checking out the booths on their way to speakers, on their way to demo new products. But right in the middle of the floor, we're gonna set up and do our show live. And this is when the trade show becomes the studio. This is building off of those conferences. Now you have the trade floor where all the other businesses are trying to gain new customers. And we'll file this one under the industry event as a podcast engine. This episode of Digital Builder was recorded live from Autodesk University at Greenbuild 2025, turning a major industry conference into a podcast studio. Host conversations with Jose Guindino of Swinnerton and Jeff Gerardi from Autodesk explore how pre-construction is shifting from spreadsheets to integrated AI-driven workflows, and why the role is becoming more strategic and collaborative. The strategy here is using an industry event with a built-in, highly qualified audience to capture expert conversations live, then distributing that content long after the conference ends, extending the value of the event and positioning the podcast as part of the industry's ongoing educational cycle. And what you see here on the screen, it's just a giant booth, and they turned their booth into a TV studio. And one of the things that's one of the hardest things to do at a trade show is to get people engaged, get people stopping by, sitting down with you, sticking around your booth. And these type of events, these types of recordings, bringing your podcast live to that show is a great way to make your booth sticky and get people talking about it while they're at the conference.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you're at the trade show, you have your badge. The people running the booth here, they're going to scan that badge, and guess what they're getting? Your contact information. You stopped by, you showed interest. So now, think of this as your business strategy. If you have a small business and you put on a local event, maybe at your local coffee shop or your library or a little civic area, you can bring people in who are interested in what you do or what the services you offer. Give them some value, train them on what you do, show them what working with you can be like. At the end of the night, you might get 3 or 4 or 5 business cards. You might make some new connections, and you might walk away with a few new clients. And what you see on the screen here is a great way to make clients in 2025 to kind of shake out that noise. Like, hey, let's slow down, let's connect, let's collaborate right here on the showroom floor before you're off to lunch to get like a Chick-fil-A or something.
Yeah.
Let's head over to we're at war, I think, Wize. When the bots start podcasting. Some of the stories are we like to focus on live events, but there are things that are happening in this industry. And one of the things I really want to focus on at the end of this is, hey, live events going to be very hard for AI to beat us, but it's happening right now. The podcast industry is facing a new kind of disruption as AI generated podcasts flood the market by the hundreds of thousands. According to Little LA Times, studios are now producing episodes for as little as $1 each, using cloned voices and synthetic hosts to dominate niche topics and trending searches at massive scale. Some creators are embracing AI as a tool, while others see it as a breach of listener trust, especially when human voices are replaced without consent. The strategy tension here is scale versus connection. AI can win on speed and volume, but in podcasting, trust and human presence are still the premium currency. What do you think about this one, Wize?
It's funny because you're the one who introduced me to ChatGPT, right?
Yes.
I still remember that message vividly when you sent it, and it involved the Tribe Called Quest and everything. And so, I've since then I've run with it, right? It's helped me structure a lot of the things that I do. It's yes, there are people using it to further themselves, and then you get people who use it for silly stuff. But me personally, being able to use AI to help me structure my podcast, help me kind of build a business plan for building the publishing arm of Real Wize Global, and all these different other ways of using AI as the tool that it was meant to be. So for me, it's been a very big part of the growth that I've been able to do this past year. It's been because of me using different tools, AI, using ChatGPT, using Cast Magic, using Minvo, all these different platforms, all these different AI tools to really help save time. Because like with Minvo, I import my video feed and it creates 30 clips that I can use on all my platforms that distributes it right directly to those platforms. And so there's tools that's helped me, again, with the production of the show, with the distribution of the show, so many different things. So I'm a big supporter of AI. Do I agree that there's a lot of people using it in a way that I don't agree with? Yes, but I think if you truly want to grow and evolve, then you need to use the tools that are available and run with it.
I have no problem with AI. I have no problem using AI. We use it here to I'm a one-man show tonight, right? To get to this point, I had to research 1,000 stories. I need AI to help me filter through that. I can't read 1,000 stories every 3 days if we're doing 2 shows a week. So I get filters, I get summaries. I'm scanning for certain keywords. I'm using it to build the theme song. I'm using it to write the theme song. I'm using it for some of the editing, some of the enhancements. And that's an okay use. That's taking the skills that you have and elevating them. That's what you want to use AI for. What
Yeah.
some of these agencies are doing is they're taking every news story that's hitting the front page, they're taking that context and generating a podcast within 5 minutes. It's going to be live and released to the world. They're just doing 3,000 podcasts a day at pennies per podcast. And this is the problem that we're having. Let me just rewind a little bit. When you talk about active podcasts, there's about 400,000 or 500,000 active podcasts, but
Yes.
the podcast directories have 4 to 5 million listings of
Mhm.
podcasts. There's 90% of the podcasts are dormant, or they gave up, or they did a few episodes and they stopped. That's already a problem with discovery of new and active shows. So there needs to be some sort of filtering that helps people find new and active shows. But if we're going to be battling shows where we can't even compete against the 90% of shows that are already out of business, then a slew of AI shows isn't going to help discovery. It isn't going to become a better experience for people coming into podcasting or just finding out about podcasting. They're gonna be buried up to their eyeballs in slop, and it's just going to turn people off. And so we need a way, and we should really call on these aggregators to filter some of this out. Can I toggle? If somebody discloses an AI podcast, can I just toggle a switch to remove that from my feed? I don't want to even hear that, and I don't want to hear. The worst thing that happens to you in podcasting is you find a new show you get really excited about. You listen to an episode, and then you go into you're like, oh, I'll go listen to some of their back catalog, and then you realize the episode you just listened to was 4 years old, and they haven't produced anything in a long time. And those types of things need filtered out, and we need to start figuring that out now before we have 3,000 AI slot podcasts dropped every single day.
Oh no, and like how you was talking about the podcasts that are dormant, right? Because there's only like 400, like you said, 400,000 podcasts that are active. Like, my podcast is active. I release a new episode every week, and so which reminds me, I'm due to release this week's episode. But anyway, yeah, it's important that to me, if you can put out at least 20 episodes, then once you get to like 20, you can continue to grow it. Like my goal when I first, because when I started, I heard about the statistic about after 2, 3, 4 podcasts, like that's when people just realize that they don't want to do it because it is a lot of work. And so when I got to like episode 20, I was like, all right, I got this. Like I'm way past the benchmark that people who stop. I'm like, all right, I'm at 20. So from there, I just started just creating content, recording more episodes, and just started releasing episodes like there was no tomorrow.
There is a hurdle. You do the first one, and then you realize, oh crap, I got to do another one in 7 days. Oh boy.
So yeah, so being able to use the AI to make things so much easier for yourself and not burn yourself out, and people say, oh, but you're not being creative enough, or well, if you don't write the right prompts into whatever you're trying to, whatever results you're trying to get from AI, then you're not, like, the prompts are very important. You can't just not put in specifics for what you want, because if you do, you're going to get, if you put in half-ass work, that's the results you're going to get. So that's why a lot of people be complaining about, oh, AI, this it's miss. No, if you use it the proper way and you do what you're supposed to do with it, then I think it's very beneficial.
Yeah, if you rely on AI as a crutch to do your work for you, I've heard Robert Rose say this 100 times. The best you'll ever be is the best mediocre version of yourself. You can't use it to do everything, to
Mhm.
come up with your ideas, to write your scripts. It's never going to be a better version of you. You have to have the skill set. You have to put in the time to be the person who can carry a show for 40 minutes, who can stay on stage, who knows what they're talking about, who is the expert. Then you rely on the AI to amplify all that and become a better creator, like some of the creators we saw here at the McDonald's. Had a new deal with when the brand becomes the venue. There was a cultural hub as a live platform. This was pretty cool. It included podcasting. McDonald's didn't just sponsor Art Basel, they built a 4-day live cultural experience with Unk Arts House, transforming Miami into a branded hub of art, food, comedy, music, and live podcasting. Across immersive installations, culinary storytelling, and performances, McDonald's centered Black creativity and community, including a live podcast conversation hosted by Kenny Burns and Elevate Hers. The strategy here is experiential amplification. Instead of interrupting culture with ads, the brand became the stage, creating moments that were live, shareable, and deeply human, and extending the impact through digital access, QR codes, and post event storytelling. And this is just one of those experiences that you look at. And if you get to go to the article, which will be in the show notes, look at this thing that they set up. It is incredible. And what an immersive experience. And all throughout, you do see like these little McDonald's logos. It's like very artistic, but also like there's this weird like corporate element. But to be able to show up and support and have like this experiential environment where people are immersed in the installations, they're meeting the artists and they're having conversations in real time. You can't buy that in a 30-second TV spot. Creating these experiences and including podcasting and performances and live installations, it's an incredible way to bring your brand into the community, to the
Mhm.
people who are going to be at these installations anyway. Use some of that corporate influence to lift everybody up, build a better community, have these experiences that you just don't get from the television.
Who else better to partner with than McDonald's, right? Because
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
McDonald's don't like. Yes, they sell burgers and everything, but they sell a brand. Like they have a system in place for their franchises to be successful, right? So for them to create something like this, being that they're one of the most highly visible brands across the world, like there's a McDonald's almost in every country. To be able to collaborate with a brand like McDonald's, it's just showing you the evolution of podcasting.
Yeah, and we're not just showing you look how great McDonald's is and they did this whole event and they put this all together. We're showing you this because these are things that are happening in your community and communities all over the country, all over the world. And if it's happening now and it's happening here and there and all these 5 other stories that you've heard from us tonight, then why aren't you doing something like this in your community? I'm sure there's an art gallery. I'm sure there's a coffee shop. I'm sure there's a library that is all looking for things to do and people to connect with. So is there something you can do? Maybe you start with the local coffee shop as a sponsor or a local bar and they let you do in an afternoon show on a Saturday when they're not selling that many beers. You could do things like this on a smaller scale in your town and bring your community together and find those like-minded people who are just like you, who love the things that you do, and you can tie that in with your local business community.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's important. So as to be honest, right? To be a successful podcaster, you need to first conquer locally. You need to focus on where you at locally, right? And build from there. Like with me, I was blessed where I had a lot of local support. I had a lot of coworkers and friends that supported the podcast and that were here locally and everything. To basically carry it to where we're at now, where it's growing and it's been amazing because I recall when I first started, it was difficult to find guests and everything, and now with the way everything is, and the way podcasting is just growing, I'm like, I open my emails and I probably have 4, 5, 6 people messaging me wanting to be on the podcast. So yeah, it's been it's crazy just to see the way everything is just exploding and growing and just evolving.
The next story that we have coming up is very similar to one that we had a couple weeks ago in New York City. This one's over in Europe. This is another really cool venue area where they have live shows, but they're also adding in this additional place to recording music, recording podcasting. But it's also a civic space, a space where people can come together and put on shows. So is there this possible collaboration between, okay, yeah, I do record my podcast at this venue, but I'm getting such a following. Maybe I should start thinking about doing a live event on their stage, bringing in my fans into this venue to do a live show. And I love what they're building here. It's when a music venue builds a podcast future. A historic music venue in Ipswich called The Bass has been awarded 1.92 million lira to transform. I think that's lira. Is that euros? It looks like not US dollars. To transform unused space into a creative digital lab, including podcast studios, live recording facilities, and video production rooms. Backed by local government funding, the project treats podcasting not as a hobby, but as a civic infrastructure, investing in spaces where creators can record, stream, and develop digital skills long term. The strategy here is future proofing venues. Live music spaces are evolving into multi format creator hubs where podcasts, video, and immersive tech keep buildings active even when there's no band on stage. And if you think about every venue you go to, the venue's only open when there's a show, right? If I've learned anything in the last year and a half, is if I'm not doing a show at Poduty or I haven't booked anybody, there's a lot of nights a month that this place sits in the dark. So how do you transform that space and to become something more than just a live venue? Well, you get grants. You start thinking about the creator economy in the long term. You start building out places for people to record when they're not doing live shows. And I think this is just a great investment and a win-win for podcasts wherever this area is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's very important that to be encouraged by this story, right? Because like with what you're doing at the theater over there, is very important because you're the next evolution to what this is, right? To creating live shows, to go to having a venue like that and being able to put out live shows and you're providing something very unique for people with the opportunity to be able to come to a venue and be on stage and put on a podcast, right? And all you really have to do is come down and just sit down, like, right? Like just come to the theater and record at the theater. You've got it to where it's growing. You've like changed things around from when we did the first live event when we did that live weekend to now where you got different angles, you've improved. So yeah, it's important to have places like what you're like with what you're creating, because not everyone is tech savvy and can't afford to get the equipment and all this. So these venues give podcasters an opportunity to shine.
Yeah, we got it down to a science. I got that white glove service. You could pull up in your Uber, walk onto the stage, record your show. While you're recording the show, call for your next Uber home. Go home. You didn't even have to drive here. You recorded a podcast. Before you get home, I will have downloaded the recordings, and they will be waiting for you so you can edit it. And then you get half of the ticket revenue. So there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of things being developed and worked on, and places like this. I love what the Baths are doing. And I just hope to see more like this in my area. Not just, we know there's happening in New York City, Los Angeles, but can this happen in Pittsburgh and Baltimore and the Poconos? I think so. And I think you're going to see venues like what I built pop up. And I think you'll see more studios like that all over the place, which means we are out of our 6 stories. Wize, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Before we go, give everybody those plugs. How can people connect with you, meet you, see your podcast, and listen to it on Real Wize Productions?
Well, my podcast is on all major platforms. It's Stuck in My Mind Podcast, Stuck in My Mind Podcast. This is like one of my original beanies, so my original logo. But yeah, it's Stuck in My Mind Podcast or on all major platforms, or go to stuckintmymindpodcast.com. You can go to realwizeglobal.com. There you can connect with me. You can, if you're interested in self-publishing books or whatever, or want to learn how to launch a podcast, you can go on the website, click on one of my calendar links and set up an appointment, and we can get together.
Awesome. I'll have all that in the show notes. And I got some plugs for old Jeffers. We got Poduty shirts, $10 a shirt, 4 colors, 5 sizes. Get them while they last. I only ordered 100, and they were at least halfway through. $10 a piece, small through XXX, and just arrived Poduty hats. You like Poduty, but on a hat? Oh, we got it. $15 for Poduty hats. It's almost our cost on those. And we talked a little bit about it. Their shows, your show. How about any show? We'll host your podcast on our stage in our theater. We have the best model in any kind of creator economy. No contract, no minimum ticket sales. We record it. We build you a landing page. We handle the ticket sales. We facilitate the event from start to finish. It's a full turnkey white glove service. You'll have the best time coming off that stage after your event. And like I said, before you get home, you'll already have the recordings waiting for you in your inbox. We don't take any rights over your content. It's 100% recorded for you, and you can do anything you want with it, which means we are out of time, out of show. We went through our 6 stories. We know how to connect with Wize. Let's hear that theme song.
What time is it? What time is it? Oh, it's time for Poduty and the news. Poduty and the news. The only live news podcast about podcasting from the stage. Poduty and the news. Poduty and the news. The only live news podcast about podcasting from the stage.
From the stage. Oh, thank you everybody for joining us tonight. Another episode of Poduty in the News. You can watch us live every Tuesday and Saturday. The new podcast comes out Wednesdays and Thursdays. So keep an eye out. We'll have this episode that is actually going to drop tomorrow. So I'm going to go home and edit. I'm staying up late tonight Watch Wize on the feed tomorrow. Poduty in the news. Thank you, everybody. We'll be back Saturday morning.